Hello, and welcome to another Atlas Championship Series match. I'm Jerry the Music Man, and I'm here with the wonderful Cherish. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, sir. I'm a very American voice considering everyone else tonight. So
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm having a good time. How are you today?
I'm good. I've been enjoying these matches so far. We've had some really good ones. Um, yeah, it's a nice diverse cast we've got here. Um, so we've got two teams lining up for our final best of two today. Going to be Pat to Sleep. Previously, Demise just underwent a name change there. Now playing under the banner Pat to Sleep and London Esports. So yeah, and I've just noticed as well. Well, I noticed earlier there's a Jerry on London Esports, so that's going to be confusing. Nice and confusing for me. Um, yeah. So what do you think about this matchup then?
uh, I'm not familiar with either team really. We've got Coast and Cafe lined up. So as of late, at least in my own experience so far, a lot of teams have been picking Villa and Clubhouse as their usual maps. At least on the American side of things. So it's nice to see that there's been a good bit of coastline and cafe play today so far. So cafe, I'm looking forward to, just because it's definitely evened out since we have seen it first introduced. It was very defender sided at first, and now it's definitely evened out more. So It's I'm excited to see how some teams will change that up and see if they can attack it differently. Just because I have hated casting like 5-1 defensive halves where the defense just slams away the attack like it's nothing.
Yeah, I've also in the European side seen a lot of Clubhouse recently. So yeah, it's nice and refreshing to see that we will be getting Coastline. So the band's just coming up there on the screen for you. We've got Pat to Sleep banning out Theme Park and Border and then London Esports banning out Coastline and Villa. Clubhouse was actually the auto ban there. So lucky that I didn't. Well, I don't have to do that again. I've done a lot of Clubhouse lately. I've
Oh
become a
yeah.
Clubhouse pro, casting at least. Definitely not playing. Um, but yeah, Coastline should be an interesting one, I think. Often sort of characterized as um, often sort of characterized as a very frag heavy map. So it will just come down to who wins their gunfights. That's the sort of typical approach to how we expect Coastline to come to go. Um, Pats Asleep are definitely the team going into this that have the kind of um, they have history on their side, the most recent history as well, especially having gotten quite far in the ESL Premiership. They only were bettered by Crazy, who have now moved into the Challenger League. So and they're doing pretty well there as well. So this is a pretty hot UK based side that a lot of people have pegged down to possibly even win this whole league. So London Esports being thrown into the deep end by a lot of people's expectations here. Um, but they're no slouches themselves. So uh, looks like we're still waiting to get on into the lobby. So when we get we're going to have Coastline. Obviously, these maps, in case you've just joined us, we do best of twos. So we've got 9 matches throughout the season, each each week, and each of those play days there will be 2 matches for each team, and it's basically a best of two that happens kind of at the same time, so one after another. Um, and where was I going with this? It basically means that this is a very compressed league. We got a lot of action very quickly, so it's quite exciting. Um, when we have Coastline, and I'm personally, my prediction was put down to be that Pat to Sleep will probably take Coastline. but I'm seeing a bit of a closer fight potentially on Cafe. Do you have any sort of inklings or thoughts about that potential?
Yeah, so I also think, let me make sure. Uh, I actually, yeah, I had them split up here that both teams would win their respective choices. So Pat's Asleep takes Coast and London actually takes Cafe. So I definitely will say that Cafe with London starting on the defense once we get there, it's gonna be an uphill battle for Pat's Asleep to try and make that one happen, especially on the attack, as they're gonna have to try and get as many rounds in the first half as they can. But that will be for after we finish Coast here, as now we've got map or the operator bands rather coming out so far. So I'm expecting Thatcher, which has become a mainstay ban. We're also going to see a Hibana, which is kind of interesting here. Nothing too surprising, I'd say, but it's still, especially when it comes that the meta has all been uh Capital and Thatcher and who else? Oh well, there's Capital. Thatcher's going to be up at least. I'm trying to think of who else has been banned a lot on the attacking side at least. But yeah, it's become specifically Capital, Thatcher, Maverick bans a lot. And then after that, the bans sort of flow in together in terms of pick rate. So it's not surprising really that we see Capital dropped. He's pretty influential in cutting off a lot of these hallways. Same with Mira, which has become pretty mainstay. And I expect Echo as the last. Yeah, nothing surprising. So, I mean,
No,
yeah,
nothing
it's
surprising indeed. I guess Hibana might be the surprise one potentially on this map. You don't often see hard breaches play too big a part in this, but we did have um, that coastline game earlier between Budapest 5 and Envik, and we also saw a Hibana ban there. And I think it was CD noted that there was a very particular position in hookah or in billiards rather. Some call it pink, some call it sofa, where a set of X Kairos from the roof will just completely nullify that position. So I think that just for that position alone, that's probably why you see the Hibana ban coming through from London Esports.
Attackers need to
Mhm.
But
locate
other
and
than that,
defuse
yeah,
bombs.
no hard breacher bans. We've got the thermite on the board. Should either team require him. It's going to be London Esports starting off on the defense here, and we are seeing a fairly utility soak heavy lineup here. We've got the Wamai, the Jaeger, and the Goyo all showing their colors here. And then a bit of intel in the hands of Maestro and Mozzie also. He's got a bit of that drone denial capability to his bow.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Yeah, and I mean, you can even
10 seconds.
continue on with that and say that Maestro is even in part of that
5
utility
seconds
soak
remaining.
that has become so popular. Um,
Attackers are
just this
heading out
whole
to defuse the
general
bomb.
20-second meta, as it's become commonly called, where you have to spend 2.5 minutes basically just getting up anywhere close to the bomb site after clearing everything out, clearing out the roamers, using all your utility on
Attackers have
Maestro
located a bomb.
cameras and Wamais and Jaeger devices and this and that and the other. And then finally, after, that 2.5 minutes, you're finally ready to attack the site, and they're still waiting for you with some C4s and who knows what else. So it's become a very obnoxious meta, especially as there's just so much that the attack has to deal with, and they don't really have all that much to counter it out with. I'd say Coastline, in terms of helping the attack, is the best for this utility meta, just because when we were saying that you don't really see the Hibana ban as much, Hard Breach in general isn't really used on this map. And the whole point, or one of the big problem points of the utility meta so far, is that you know, it soaks up so much utility that you have to either say, all right, do we want something to help deal with it, or do we want to bring a hard breach? Since you don't really need that hard breach here, it just allows you that extra operator slot for the IQ or for a flank watcher or for both Ash and Zofia.
Yeah, it's typical of this meta, really, that we're already halfway through the round and barely any damage dealt either way. Anyone playing Caster Bingo at home will be happy to see that we've already said utility soak and 20-second meta within the first round, so that's good for you. First kill, though, going to Pat to sleep, and the second one as well, as both Jerry and Falcon go down. And it looks like a very early plant attempt going through, but a refrag coming out there from the defenders, and yet another in the favor of the attackers there. Now it's just Grills and Blackout left in a 2 versus 4. With 50 seconds left, now it's a 1 versus 4 as Dowie finds Grills with that frag grenade off screen. And it's all left for Blackout to do, really. With 45 seconds left, he does have eyes on Diffuser, and that is the one thing really going for him in this situation.
Yeah, all alone. He's going to be able to pick up one here with that Vector, actually, not running the TCSG, as we're approaching its nerf soon. But he's also got impact grenades in his pocket, so not a ton of plant denial, but it doesn't matter. Dowie from below, able to pick up Blackout there and confirm the round for Pat's asleep. Not really too surprising. Coastline here is swinging more in favor of the attack, it seems, lately, as it's a difference. It's very different than the usual defender-sided maps that we see. And I think that's just because, like you had mentioned before, during the map ban phase that we had gone through previously, it's just frag heavy. Once it comes down to it, 9 times out of 10, the attackers' weapons will out damage and outpower or overpower those of the defenders. So we're headed back to Hookah Billiards again to see if London here can right any of their wrongs from this previous round, but I think it's identical lineups, really. I think London at this point is just going to try and see if they can do anything differently in terms of gunfights or positioning. But from there, I mean, yeah, it comes down to if Pat's Asleep can just outmaneuver them.
Yeah, we didn't really get to see much of how that huge sort of explosion of kills mid-round really transpired. So it might just come down to losing a few gunfights. We can only really speculate on that. And yeah, clearly London Esports just looking to roll the die yet again on this site and try and just double down on what they know best for the time being. But another loss their way might shift their mindset a little bit. Let's see if it pans out that way. Looks like we've got a fairly split push coming through as Uzus is positioning himself on that hookah balcony, but with the Zofia of Josh Glitch pushing in, looking to clear out from VIP side of things. Falcon on this fairly deep roam has positioned himself in security, and it's Harris is going to be getting the opening kill there with that very unusual repel actually working out in his favor. It's very rare that you see that window ever factor into this map at all, but clearly having that knowledge on the Jaeger and just catching him off guard.
Yeah, definitely not somewhere you usually see anyone play in terms of repel or anything, and clearly took Falcon off guard as now it's Blackout coming down here to help out Karma on the roam game. And other than that opening kill, it's pretty slow going once again. There's different map positioning taken now by Pat's Asleep, able to take full control of the office and security side of things, but other than that, it's not much going. Karma's going to be able to pick up Dowie again now as he goes down thanks to that Roni on Milesy, and another pick by Grills. However, he's quickly traded out by Harris, and now the Buck goes down thanks to Karma getting very aggressive. Harris traded right back. Rather, that wasn't the Buck, that was Nomad with a different skin. So 3v2 now as some of the Goyo shields are starting to get popped, and it's up to Josh Glitch here to try and clear out these roamers down below. With just a minute left, though, him and Users have to get their butts moving, really.
That's a big
Users
double
actually,
kill
too.
there. Big double kill from Users. And he's turned it on its head because it's Karma rather just flailing that C4 up, expecting maybe to get someone, but now he's full flashed, and with both players above him, Diffuser can potentially be collected here as there's 34 seconds left, and the plant is certainly on the cards for Pat to sleep. Second flash comes out to deter Karma from pushing up those stairs any further, and it looks like Users is backed away to the hallway. Josh is going to be sticking that diffuser down cleverly on top of the pool table. So this vertical destruction that we see Karma contemplating is not going to work. He doesn't go for it anyway. Now it's a post-plant scenario, and Josh Klitsch sealing that round out after the plant goes down. Nice clean headshot onto the stairs. And that's London Esports being put down 2-0 now.
Yeah, 2 attacks now go the way of Pat's Asleep, as they have confirmed it out on Hookah twice. We're headed to Blue and Sunrise, and I mean, I am not surprised that they're moving over to a different site. Usually, once you lose it twice in a row, you kind of want to abandon ship and change some stuff up. But really, it just seemed like while London did get more aggressive downstairs, especially to try and counter out, just giving up all the control that Pat's Asleep wanted, it still came out that the exact same defense was set up upstairs, and that was just so easily predictable for Pat's Asleep, regardless of the push, and they were able to counter that out. It's interesting to see, I think, the rise in popularity of Blue and Sunrise here, as we didn't see it this match yet, at least for London's side. We may still for Pat's Asleep, but a lot of teams are often picking it as their second site now, or sometimes rarely even their first site, depending on how comfortable they are on it, obviously. And it's just interesting because usually back when Coastline was played a lot, you would see it kind of like if you happen to win Hookah and the other site of Kitchen, you would go there and just hope for the best, as Karma somewhere got a C4 early on. I'm not sure where. Oh, he spawn peeked with the C4 and was able to take out Doey, as now Blackout is down, but he's taken out one for himself. That's Josh Glitch, and we're already within 30 seconds. We're into a 3v4, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely unusual to see that at this point. Luckily, on the defensive side, they only lost the Pulse, who does provide that sort of active utility throughout the round, but there's certainly worse opera. In fact, no, to be honest, on this lineup, I'm going to backtrack on what I say. On this lineup, he's the one that's really you want to keep alive. We've got no smoke, nothing sort of that accumulates over round like a lesion. And actually, that continuous utility that the Pulse provides is going to be a bit of a loss, considering most of your other defensive ops here, Mozzie, Castle, Mute, and the Jaeger, all of their stuff will have been deployed by that C4 that's still in the hands of Jerry. But of course, they still have that man advantage, but no more, as Pat manages to slap down Falcon after he goes for a slightly aggressive peek there from Hookah. Dropping the good night in chat as well. That's got to hurt.
Yeah, very fluid there from him, able to take down the Jaeger, who's 0-3, pretty rough start for him, as now Usus and Harris here are going to start to push in and take some of this kitchen control back from London. Usually you see that kitchen held firmly, but after Blackout jumped out, I think it was Grills who rotated back, and now they are holding firmly as best they can in this site, as well as having Karma upstairs. 3v3 though, with a minute, just under a minute rather, left. There's still a lot of utility on this attacking side, and only a C4 really from Jerry. So now Grills is going to go down to Harris here. as he's only sustained about half his health. And watching calmly for Karma to rotate down, a lot of angles are being held on lock here. The mute is going to be seen and taken out, even though Harris went down to Karma. It's down to just him. He has to pick up 2 more, I think, for a 4K on the round just to win out. He's going to miss his shots on uses here with 15 seconds left. It's looking pretty doomed for him. As, yep, uses able to confirm it. Rotating back around with a nice headshot. And that's 3 in a row now for Pat's Asleep.
It's been a very slow-paced first half or so to this match, or to this half, I suppose, the first quarter of the match. But it's just been a case of Pat Sleep kind of walking over London Esports for the time being. Really got to see them wake up a bit and push back, I think, because this is not the most exciting contest. I got to be honest. Right now, it's a really calm one. Um, Hopefully, it pops off at some point. We are going to be seeing another attempt at the blue and sunrise bars hold. Same exact lineup as well for the defense. So they're going to stick again with what they know. Seems to be a characteristic of this side. They're not willing to mix it up, especially whether it be in terms of operator lineup or site choice. Maybe some adaptations in the way they set themselves up would be beneficial. They did actually see themselves into the round with a fairly early advantage, but then just a bit of over aggression really costing them that. Especially, for instance, that peak. I can't recall exactly who it was, but from the hookah, just holding out on the window, and that backfired spectacularly, and then suddenly they've lost their man advantage. So yeah, London Esports perhaps getting a little bit ahead of themselves in that regard. How do you think they can mix it up potentially to start to turn this around? Are there any kind of things that they should be doing? Perhaps it's just approaching the fight slightly differently. I don't know. What are your thoughts there?
I think really it's, like you mentioned, Falcon got caught out on hookah there, just peeking a minute into the round for whatever reason. And I think when it comes down to it, the aggression has been working out decently for London, but it's a matter more so that they are being overly aggressive rather than having a sort of controlled aggression, in the sense that they are taking aggressive angles and aggressive peaks, but not so much that they're, swinging out wildly and jumping out of windows and peeking everything. As it's, they are playing overly aggressive right now. Like I said, they're just peeking everything, and they're just trying to force things when they don't need to, when this normal aggression that they've been having has been working decently fine. Falcon's gonna get found out by Doey there somewhere. I think sprayed actually through the through one of the walls, in fact. So possibly caught on drone, but the point is Falcon is now 0-4, not really having much contest in this one, as now Jerry is also gonna go down. He was one of the site players. Josh Glitch able to confirm that one through the rotate hole, as maybe some misinformation or maybe some poor aggression. But it's looking like another Pat's Asleep mop up around here, as they're really just making it look like a one-sided attacker-sided map.
They really are right now. I never like to highlight it, but we're sitting on donuts for Jerry and Falcon at the moment, and as the round comes to a pretty swift end there, Uzi's just cleaning up shop, taking down Karma and the other last remaining defender pretty convincingly. Oh, nice knowledge there, knowing to aim for that hole up in in billiards. But yeah, it's difficult when you've got some players just not quite putting up the numbers straight at the start, and it just seems to me that London just need to warm up a little bit. Falcon's definitely a performer historically for this team. He's actually one of the sort of longest serving members of this roster. Blackout Falcon kind of go back further than the rest of them, but um, yeah, you expect your Jaeger main basically to be picking up some frags, even if it's one or two, even if he's not top fragging. But yeah, I think it just might be a case of London needing to wake up a little bit, and hopefully we'll see that because they're letting this game slide away from them quite rapidly. And that's not to discredit Pats Asleep at all. They've been playing pretty well so far. That last round was a textbook take of the bottom floor, sealing off completely the lobby and that entire side of the map, and then exploiting those long angles to their advantage. We saw the castle sort of locking off kitchen and kitchen hall, which is a fairly common setup for the defense when it comes to defending the bars. But I don't think enough of a fight was put up from within kitchen itself. That's usually the kind of mainstay of that defense. When you set up like that, you're aiming to have two. Sometimes you even see three defenders stacked up in kitchen because it's got a lot of advantageous cover and positions that you can use to fight the long angles back as a defender. But we didn't really see that from London Esports. They basically had that sealed off and then played largely inside. They had one player up in hookah, or in billiards rather. And yeah, I think perhaps just mixing it up a little bit on that defense will prove beneficial to them. But right now we're heading to hookah and billiards for the third time. And if they lose this round, then you've got to be wondering, London Esports, why not just try out kitchen, maybe even penthouse. I mean, I know the mirrors banned, but you just got to try something different, I think, in this situation.
Yeah, you really have to shake something up, and I don't think Jerry off the Maestro and onto the Valk is that shakeup you really need. That's the only difference that we're seeing really between these two rounds, or these two defenses that they set up in the first two rounds and this one now. Especially considering that Pat is on the IQ, he's able to pretty quickly handle these Valkyrie cams.
C4 sounded like it went out there from Jerry and didn't catch anyone, unfortunately.
Yeah.
On a personal note, it's quite nice to see Jerry playing Valk, because I love playing Valk, and that's just nice. So it looks like Falcon's going to be prepping this window for a run out as soon as he gets the intel outside, but they may be without that black eye that would have benefited them. Obviously, Pat bringing that scanner just means that Valkyrie, like you mentioned, definitely not the best adjustment from the Maestro in this particular instance.
Yeah, I guess it helps with the aggression is Falcon's going to be able to pick up his first kill. Pat very quickly trades it right back onto Grills, but now getting aggressive onto Yuzu. Is Falcon here able to pick up two for himself, getting off his own donut there? Pat's pushed up aggressively onto the Goyo here as Josh Glitch is going to be able to pick up one for himself onto Jerry, but the Goyo wins it out with that Vector. It's just down to a 1-on-2 actually, with Blackout picking up 3 very fast kills. And that was an absolute flurry all of a sudden as he flicked back between the two angles.
He was just hitting heads. That was what happened there. that's as far as the analysis goes. Blackout hit all the heads. That was incredible stuff from him. And of course, as you mentioned, Falcon as well, waking up that round, getting a nice little 2-piece to set his team on a good track. It did look like some smart positioning there from who was it? It was Josh pushing around. You really expected him to win that peak, the crouch peak, as Zofia looked like he really looked like he landed enough shots, but obviously the headshot coming from that Vector is enough to shut you down instantly. No chance to withstand there. So yeah, big props to Blackout for that play on the Maestro. It's not a Maestro, it's a Goyo.
Yeah, so pretty interesting that he's using the Vector and able to clutch that out, but more power to him as we're once again going back to Bar and Sunrise, or Blue and Sunrise bars here, as this for me still carries on that point that you made before. Why not just try kitchen and service? Because as from what I can remember, it was basically a flawless round the last time. There was one impactless kill that got picked up onto Harris the last time we came here from London, but otherwise everyone else from Pat's Asleep was still alive. And they very handily just took over this defense. And now that you're running the same exact defense for the 3rd time in a row, on the site. It's basically Pat's Asleep can just walk through it. They know where they have to push. They know what they need to take out. And unless London here can play super aggressively and just make things happen that they weren't able to previously, I can't really see this going any other way than the way of Pat's Asleep again.
On a kind of similar vein, though, you could potentially see London Esports having what we saw kind of like last round was basically the identical setup. And over the course of the first half, London have basically read into Pat's Asleep, and it finally paid off after 4 rounds of losses. They knew roughly where this attack was coming from, and it enabled things like those runouts. Obviously, the Valkyrie cams or what have you might have helped in that situation, but also just knowing where your attackers are likely to come from, where they prefer to push from, is going to make a difference in your sort of level of aggression, so to speak. Grill's going to be picking up that first kill, as I mentioned it, and Josh Glitch is going down to the castle. So that's a Zofia gone, and one of your big value operators on the attack. No matter where you are, no matter what point in the round, that Zofia is always a good op to have. And yeah, he's off the board now. So 5 versus 4 in favor of London Esports on the defense. And if they do seal this out in a 4-2, then that's a fairly respectable first half for them. But might be early days to be talking about that there.
Yeah. We still got a minute left, but it's still very slow going here from Pat's Asleep as they're not pushing normally where they are. Because of that, it's going to be Harris to go down to the Mozzie, but Krills was able to be picked up for his aggression there. As now it's down to a 4-on-3 at least, but still pretty in favor of London. We've got just ticking past 45 seconds now. And 3 C4s actually are still on the board here. All of them are still up, and Pat's Asleep doesn't really have a lot to work with here in terms of their space and positioning. They're going to have to funnel into the same site together, really. And that site happens to have holes breached above it. 20 seconds now, as it's going to be Yuzu to push forward, looking for these holes, as Doey is going to start to take some shots, but dropping down onto him. Actually, it's Falcon losing it out, as the IQ did go down. That's Pat, but Yuzu and him both, I think, confirmed one for each other, as Blackout and Karma now are pushing forward. Pat's confirmed by Karma here, able to pick up his second on the round, but he's going to be pushing right in the gunfire, or the gun sights rather, of Yuzu, able to pick up another for himself. The Ash is going to actually push out in front of Karma and be picked up for the third, as now it's just Karma against the 1 or 2 shot Doey here, hanging out outside the window. Planted here for him, though, is the bomb, and all he has to do is wait for that third tick from Karma. Karma's actually going to peek out, but no! Misses shots. Doey does not. Karma goes down, not able to confirm his fourth and clutch out the round, and very close there for London, as they were able to almost make it work on that retake.
That was such a good push there from Yuzis, and it was only an even bigger round, really, from Karma that managed to just put a dent in the hopes of Pat's Asleep there on their attack. But yeah, like you said, a solid lockout there from Dowie in the post plant, making sure not to be baited by what was a very long stick on the diffuser. So very well played to the Sledge there. We're going to be switching up now to attack for London Esports, and they're going to be hoping to see a little bit more success in this half. 5-1 is a tough scoreline to overcome. On Coastline, it might be what you are expecting potentially, I guess, on the defensive side of things, if you're being pessimistic about it, but yeah, that's not a good place to start the second half, really. Bans as well, not really favoring either side particularly. So, you know, there's no really odd ban or odd omission from the bans, other than I don't know, perhaps like sometimes you see nomad bans on coastline just to facilitate a bit more aggression and allow the defenders to kind of extend the map to the outside, because it is quite claustrophobic. But there's none of that here. We've got the Havana and the Capital instead, and that's just yeah, that's fairly standard. So I'm clutching at straws here, trying to find some way that I can get London Esports to feel like they have a better chance in this. Obviously, a completely different half, it could just turn on its head. We have seen some pretty impressive comebacks over today. First frag going to be going in the direction of Pat's Asleep, though, and that's Pat himself getting that onto the Nomad, which is definitely a good pick very early on.
Yeah, like you said, that Nomad has in the past seen a lot of presence in both pick and ban on this map. There's a lot of nooks and crannies, especially with the luggage and stuff, that you can hide those air jabs in and really make it tough for the attack, or that rather the defense to avoid them or find them out. But now that he's off the board, I don't even think he might have only set up one, if any. But thanks to him not being there anymore, it's not going to be present there, and that's going to be free rotations for Pat's Asleep now. And this attack is going to at least get to push in here to Aqua, as the ADSs start to get burnt out to try and pressure some of these deployable shields and various cameras that are up and present. But I think it's Harris holding firm there all alone, as Yuzu is in the other side as well. But the rest of Bats Asleep here is just hiding around the map, and London has not been able to find them or push them out really anywhere.
Uses is just a well-timed peek away from an instant death, as we've got, I believe it's Blackout repelling on that hookah window, and just a peek in through that window would, to the completely exposed mute would it spell his demise. But that wall being open means he's going to be playing a little bit more passively now, and it looks like he'll actually back away quite smartly. Uses getting his second for the team, and then a third taking down Falcon. That's Diffuser dropped by Paul. It's a big pick there, and another one for Users as they're all just funneling into the smoke. He actually sees the final player, but goes down to him as he doesn't pull the trigger on this shotgun, but it doesn't matter. Dowie manages to clean things up there. A big showing from the smoke in that situation. And yeah, that's a strong round on the defense for Pat to Sleep, as they have managed to put themselves onto match point already.
Yeah, so this is really just that point of no return for London here, as they now have to chain together 5 rounds in a row just to be able to tie up here. And something to note, as I think you mentioned earlier, Jerry, we do best of twos here, but we also do ties. So no matter what the most rounds we're gonna get is 12. So it's, like I said, it's 5 rounds away that London has to get just 1 point for this map. Otherwise, it's looking like 3 here for Pat's Asleep.
Attackers have located a bomb. 10 seconds left. 5 seconds left before insertion. Attackers are moving to defuse the bomb. Attackers dropped the
To actually play, it looks like they've pretty much evacuated the site itself. Be interesting to see how that pans out for them, because they're going to need to, it looks as though they're kind of offering up that ground to the defenders. And I was going to say about the Romai and the Jaeger, if they've got enough utility invested in that site, then what you can do is kind of fake a presence there by having just enough stalling it out. And of course, you've got the Mute and the Mozzie, which potentially makes it difficult to drone out the site. So there's something in this game that I like to refer to as presence, where you've got a kind of a presence in a site without necessarily being there. And it looks as though, as I'm explaining this, they are actually returning to site and it's not entirely evacuated. But
The attackers'
I do
bomb
like the
diffuser has
idea
been
of teams
dropped.
kind of
Attackers
playing
have located a bomb.
around an
Attackers
area
have
where
recovered the
they kind of fake a presence, you know, be it with mirror windows or ADSs or mute jammers. C4 going out there and it's not going to actually catch anyone. Uses just a little bit shy of the mark, and no one on London Esports in any way damaged. Users though playing very aggressively now in service, trying to look for these vertical angles as they get opened up above him on the mute. Those SMG-11s rounds can actually be, it can feel like quite a good gun to be firing up with. It's something that smoke mains are very used to. and the recoil can sometimes work in your favor. Harris going to be finding that first kill, though, with a headshot onto Grills. And again, the Nomad off the board first of all. But I didn't stop... I was going to say it didn't stop them winning last round, but they didn't win last round. Where am I going with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're down to just a minute left here, and London once again is on the back foot as, wow, you weren't kidding. Yuzus is very aggressive here in service. He's just holding right in front of the door. I think he's just a lone spray away from meeting the bad end, but it's Karma not really picking him up there. He's going to be able to push up, but no, the nade actually kills Falcon, who was the benefactor, or rather on the wrong end of his spray there. But now he's actually been able to hide here right next to the IQ, and they know exactly where he's planting. Still a 4v2 effectively, as the plant does at least go down. Pat is going to confirm onto users, but at least take down Blackout. Dowie picks up what remained of the IQ, and it's all down to Karma in a 1v4. Looking like a lockout here for Pat's asleep as the defuse has started. Karma has to push forward. He's going to pick up one at least, but Dowie for 3 there on the round confirms it. The Pat's asleep and confirms the map 7-1. A very strong showing initially for Pat's asleep here.
That rush, that timed triple rush outside the building, must have just terrified the Buck in that last moment. I mean, you've got to have hope in that situation. When the diffuser's gone down, you know, anything can happen. But that was just perfectly played, really, by Pat to Sleep in that situation. Having one person stick the diffuser and then forcing the attacker to take 3 fights at once, even if he wins those, even if the stars align and we see like 3 headshots or whatever come through, you've still got the potential that the diffuser gets disabled. So yeah, very well done there by Pat to Sleep, and a very convincing match from them, completely wiping the floor with London Esports. It was what I didn't expect it to be a complete whitewash, but going into that match, my prediction was that Pat to Sleep would probably take the first map, based on it being coastline as well. That only kind of confirmed that for me, but I think London Esports definitely have a much better chance coming to Cafe. In my opinion, it will play more into their hands. I think they can have their set strats on defense, and they will work out quite. There's more of a kind of flow to that map that has to happen. So Cherish, anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I think London starting on defense on Cafe is definitely going to bode better for them than it did on Coastline. But I think other than that, we'll have to see how that gets into it after we're going to head to a quick break here in between maps to get stuff set up between the two. And after a few minutes, we will see you guys for map 2 Cafe Dostoevsky between London Esports and Pat's Asleep.
Yep. So yeah. Hello and welcome back. Thank you very much for waiting. Apologies for that delay. I'm Jerry the Music Man. This is Cherish with me, and we've got match 2, Pats Asleep versus London Esports. We just saw Coastline go the way of Pats Asleep pretty convincingly, 7-1. So, Cherish, what are you expecting to see maybe from this game? I don't know.
So we went over it previously that one of the big things about Coastline is that it's super frag heavy, and it seemed like time and again Pats Asleep was able to just outright win their gunfights. Cafe is definitely far more strat reliant than a lot of the other maps in the pool, and it's far more strat reliant than Coastline. So this is at this point it's really on London here starting on defense to try and see what they can make happen with their strats, see if they can do anything that'll definitely fake out Pats Asleep. But something that we saw, oh, that's interesting. Something that we saw previously is if a strat fails for London, they kind of just stick to it the next round anyway. And they will continue through the same strat multiple rounds in a row, even if it fails, and they'll just change how they play rather than try and work out a different strat. I think part of this, though, that's going to hamper their strategy is a Wamai ban actually coming out from Pats Asleep. So that's interesting for sure.
I was going to highlight that because that's clearly just a bit of an adjustment. It's very rare to see a Wamai ban, and it's something that we should probably start seeing a bit more of as time goes on. He's definitely a very powerful operator. We have seen the odd Goyo ban as they both creep their way into the meta as it is. And as you mentioned, Cafe being very kind of utility reliant and strat reliant means that that's going to hurt on the defensive side more than your average ban. Bit of nice sportsmanship going back and forth here in the chat. Like to do that. I think based on the fact that we were saying that that last map, London Esports did kind of rest on the laurels a little bit. They were kind of repeating strategies and hoping things would go different ways. You know, it's the definition of insanity, isn't it? You know, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, it definitely drove London Esports insane that last match, and they'd have looked to use that slightly extended delay to kind of mentally reset. And I think a lot is going to ride on how these first few rounds go. If their defensive setups can actually hold out and they start off with a couple of rounds going their way in this first half, then I think we're going to see a much tighter matchup on our hands, as Pats Asleep have shown themselves to be a very, very capable team. But if London Esports do take that lead initially, then I think we will see a very close match.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. So we'll see how London wants to work here with their bar cocktail defense first, which as of late has definitely been seen to drop in play, at least as an initial sight. Not really sure why. It's the same idea that a lot of Villa has been seeing people fall away from Aviator and Games. So there's a bit of a meta swap, I guess, really lately, as Grills has once again picked up this castle upstairs, as they are trying to just take as much utility and as much stall from the attack here as they can. And that's really going to help. Jerry is able to pick up the Zofia first, but a quick trade back, and then a quick trade back again. Karma able to pick up Uzus, who picked up Falcon. So still, that's a very favorable trade in favor of London, even if it was just Falcon for Uzus, ignoring the pick onto Josh's Zofia there. That is, you know, sure, it's the Jaeger going down, but he used all his utility. Ow. Dowie actually took a nice hit from that Ash charge there. So
that's not the plan.
That's really rough.
That is not the plan, Pat. Okay, so both of them culpable there, really. Pat just risking Dowie's unawareness, and then Dowie paying with about 90 of his HP. So when you're a man down, the last thing you want to be doing is putting one of your teammates on within a bullet reach of death. But he's still useful, still got that gun, still got that scanner as well. He's going to be removing a couple of little pieces of utility from that room. But the push is almost ready to come through, as they do have control of Piano. But Palmer sitting underneath with the C4, and Jerry as well on that same level as the attackers with the C4 ready to go, means that they're going to have to be very careful on their approach as we dip into the last 20 seconds of the round.
Yeah, just in these last 20 seconds, as Jerry's actually going to get way aggressive, able to just walk up there onto Dowie and Harris. Not sure what they were really looking at. As, wow, that is... That's so aggressive, and there's just really nothing to say about it, as he was able to freely do that without any contention. And now that is, I believe, of this matchup, at least, that is London's first lead here. Able to confirm that one with a initial round. So it definitely feels good to start out with at least one round. And starting on this defense, hopefully they can chain more and more together here, as we're going to be seeing a couple interesting picks come out. Not an alibi, it's Valkyrie instead, but the Vigil is going to at least be stuck here by Karma. So this has become a combo that is very prevalent lately. It's usually, the trio is usually Mute, Mozzie, and either Goyo or Vigil, just because the Goyo shields allow you to place the Mutes and Mozzies almost behind a false wall in the hallway, so it's harder to just shoot them. You have to waste full utility or push up onto the shields to take them out. Or you run a Vigil so that no drones can really get past the Mutes and Mozzies, and that Vigil kind of just runs around wherever he wants and gets annoying with the scanner, and it's really tough to find him on drone.
Yeah, they certainly have their different strengths of opting for the Goyo or the Vigil. I'd say if you're bringing the Vigil, then you're definitely leaning further into a slightly roam-heavy strat. In fact, this is a kind of lineup that you very often see on a clubhouse basement defense, where you'll extend to the very top floor, roam up there, and seek to waste as much time as possible. We've got kind of something vaguely similar coming out here from London Esports on their defense. Not quite as extended a hold as we have the attackers basically already in control of Train, which is... no, sorry, that was Jerry we were spectating there. So, yeah, a fairly wide room, but it's up one floor rather than the two that you see on Clubhouse. Yuzus as well, rocking that Nomad, though, is going to be a real pain for this strategy for the defense, because it does rely partially on a retake, and if you do have those air jabs set up correctly and in good places, then all you need to do really is eliminate the site players, and then you've got a free entry. But Blackout is going to make sure that's not happening, as down goes Dowie quite early on, and has an IQ and a good gun off the board as well. Grills, having taken a lot of damage though through the those Maverick holes, I believe, sits on about 10 HP himself, so quite close to death, but still man advantage in favor of London on the defense.
Yeah, Dowie was caught peeking through those top holes by the Maverick. Harris trying to Maverick trick out the wall, as a C4 from Blackout confirms his second, after he picked up Dowie through those very same holes. So no real hard breach being picked up here by Passive Sleep. They're instead opting for a Maverick trick idea. Speaking of, that was the Maverick that did fall. So Goyo trying to find another, as he does. That's 3 for Blackout, in fact. There's no other walls will be opened up. Josh Glitch goes down as well with, I think, a lot of those stuns up. Users able to go down from the Valkyrie, who's trying to get aggressive and confirm his kill, but nothing there. A Nomad is hit at least, but it's just up to Pat, caught outside, and now the Sharks are circling. Everyone is swarming in, trying to find what they can. Falcons, it was actually his kill that was confirmed there. The Nomad bleeding out as he's looking for his second. Abel with a nice flick on the Pat. Confirm that one with a nice, flawless round to boot. And London is looking very, very comfortable here on Cafe.
Yeah, this is a completely different side that we're seeing come up against. Pat's asleep now. They've woken up, it would seem, and 2 rounds in a row. That's also the first time we've seen that from London. In fact, obviously, it's the first 2 rounds that we've seen from them at all. They have doubled their tally from the last time, at least compared to last time, and we're only 2 rounds in, so that's pretty impressive. Something that we really saw. I mean, that was a completely dominant round from London. But I think in the previous one, I just want to go back and analyze a little bit about that. We saw London actually winning the refrag early on, and that was something we did not see at all in Coastline. It was almost always early advantage for Pat's Sleep, and if it was early advantage for London, then they kind of threw it away and got a delayed refrag of some kind onto them. So yeah, they've shown that they can win out a fairly tight round, Jerry popping off at the end. And they've shown that they can completely dominate around down the kitchen. So this bodes very well for London, and it's the mental aspect of that as well that's going to play in hugely here for this map. And I think we definitely have a much closer game on our hands than we did on Coastline.
Yeah, without a doubt, it is looking far closer so far than on Coastline. If anything, actually, it's very swung here in favor of London, as they are just controlling it. Only 1 death over the 2 rounds. That was Falcon early on. And they're just looking to try and lock out this site triangle here. A lot of castle setup here on the upstairs, which is not odd, but not very common on the places that he's at least set them up from what I've seen. And this is now London trying to look for a full lockdown here. An attempt at a cheeky nitro from Blackout missed. I don't know if he waited for the hatch to be open or if it was already open that he went for that one, but not able to catch anything.
I'm intrigued to see whether the defenders... No, they are not set up in freezer. Which is part of this kind of defensive reading room that sometimes you see where they'll open up holes above in freezer to give them control down into both sites, in fact. But that's not what we're seeing here. Slightly further back placement of that utility and the castle barricades to try and burn time and utility. Jerry is lurking down here on the pulse, and he's been pretty happy to mix it up in his operator selection. He was mute 1 round, then Valkyrie the next, and now he's on pulse. So I think that speaks confidence, but he does get caught out and has to retreat. Meanwhile, on top floor, we've got still 1 minute 30 left on the round, so the defender's doing quite good for time, as we've got a full roster on both sides, completely undamaged, and still Comma's basically met no pressure here at the top of White Stairs, but that might be about to change. He does manage to catch a single drone coming in through the bar, but doesn't need to worry about this push potentially coming from Cigar as well. And he does have players in support on White Stairs. 59 seconds left, and still no pressure applied to that top floor. This is really looking quite dire, actually, for the attack. They need to make something happen soon. Otherwise, they're just going to find themselves out of time when it comes to the final push.
Yeah, I mean, this is a far cry from the other rounds we've really seen, as now even Karma's trying to fish for some type of pick to start off this round, as 2.5 minutes are in now, and only now the wall is getting opened here by Harris on the Maverick, as he's burning away very quickly, trying to make it happen right away. And I mean, it's just generally it's such a slow attack. We have 15 seconds as the first pick comes out. That's Falcon on the Pet. And now this is where the bloodbath comes in. Uses Blackout, Karma all picking up 1. Falcon with another. That's his second Dowie. Dowie with 1. Falcon for 3. And absolute bloodbath as that was a lockout there for London. And I mean, it's just like you said, it was a slow attack that Castle set up upstairs, the full lock setup upstairs, holding Pat's asleep at bay. And I think, without everyone peeking every angle, that would have been only a single kill or so for Pat's asleep. And this is just now with the third site confirmed, this is just an absolute lockout on this defense here for London.
I don't think I've ever seen a Maverick attempting to open a wall with 10 seconds left on the timer in my life. That was an incredibly slow round from Pat to sleep. They fell asleep at the wheel. I'm gonna have to resist the urge to make that pun throughout the whole season, and it's gonna be so hard, I swear. But yeah, that was just abysmally slow. I do think though there's some credit worth giving to London Esports for that setup. We did mention it on Coast and mention it going into this game, and clearly they have their setup very thoroughly thought out. That was a nice investment of utility. As I mentioned, you quite often see on that top floor hold in the defensive reading a slight extension, sometimes even into under New Hatch or sort of cigar shop area with Goyo shields and Jaegers, ADSs, etc. There we saw slightly further back hold, where most of the defenders were basically in that cocktail bar or supporting White Stairs, but it was the placement of those ADSs. I don't know if we caught that perfectly. You may have noticed it. There was a double ADS invested just on the end of the long bar, which I can only assume must have caught a couple of Zephyrs and Ash's charges, because that castle barricade in cocktail with the double door stayed intact for the entire round. And that just gave the defenders such an easy vantage point over, well, everything really. There's a reason that they call that position heaven, because you can see pretty much everything from it. It's the best place to be if you want control over the map, and they kept control of that right until the late round.
Yeah, just no pressure generally at all came out from Pat's asleep on that upstairs. And like you said, because of that, they were just able to keep a lot of control, which caused Harris to only take about the last 15 or 20 seconds to try and break down that wall. So, I mean, we'll have to see how fast Pat's asleep wants to work out these defenses now, or work through them rather. It's interesting to know that as a figure Pat's asleep has come to recognize, Pat is cautiously waiting for the castle actually here. They come to recognize that London here holds a lot of the same defenses, so now they're working through a lot of this stuff very quickly. Castle's going to take about half his health as Pat stayed ever so diligent on drone. Or rather, it was Yuzus on drone helping him out there to find the castle on the flank, who escaped with his life at least, but now he might be found once again by Yuzus. And
this is a very
Porthole?
cheeky little
No.
angle being held by the Nomad here. Quite often you see it just popped open and held so that you've got full control over that pixel spot and the top of the other White Stairs rather. A quick trade coming out there as Falcon and Josh Glitch find each other's heads. That's the Jaeger and the Zofia both gone. Definitely a pick going the way of the defense, if you ask me, in terms of utility there. But Falcon has been lighting up the scoreboard this round, or this match in particular. So they lose their key fragger for the moment, and that might even out the difference somewhat.
Yeah, just 15 seconds left now. It's effective. It's a 4-on-4 actually, not even effectively. No one is downed yet. And once again, we're going to get into a rush bloodbath. Pat's going to pick up Grills, what remained of the castle, but Dowie has taken about half his health in return. And with 3 seconds left, Harris is going to have to take the plant now. He's only just now sticking it as the C4 from Karma confirms it. And these attacks are just moving at a snail's pace here for Pat's asleep. Once they start hitting the defensive parts of London Esports here, they get through, those areas that you were talking about before. I can't remember how you said it. Oh, the presence areas. Where there's these castles set up or shields set up, and they're getting through those very quickly. But then once they get to the points of contention where there are operators being held by London, there's a massive struggle here to try and uproot them and take them out and push through it
Attackers need to
all.
locate and
I
defuse
would
And
go
because
even
of that,
further.
can.
Sorry to interrupt you there. I
no,
would go
you're
even
fine.
further to
It's
say
just
that in that round, they didn't even get into the areas of kind of presence, as we've begun to term it, I guess. They didn't even get there that quickly. If the standout area that round, that bar's defense piano, there was no one in piano on the defense for the majority of that round, not even really from the very start. And we saw players rappelling outside it, no one actually inside piano, and that castle barricade splitting off cigar and piano still intact, again with about 1 minute 20 left on the board. And that was just, if anything, Path of Sleep is sort of deteriorating in terms of their speed, and when really that third round should have been a wake-up call for them to really speed things up.
Yeah, so I mean, now that they're starting, it seemed like they're getting used to how or rather how London is holding some of these defenses. Hopefully Pat's Asleep has gotten used to it to a degree, at least enough to act more quickly on things. As we're gonna see this attack come out now once again onto kitchen and service. Karma on
Located a bomb.
the vigil once more is gonna get spotted out for just a second, and then throw on that scanner to scramble anything from seeing him. So he's effectively undroned at this point, not sure where he's run off to, and because of that, he's able to confirm onto the Nomad. He's just going down to the vigil that he had just spotted, and now a 4-on-5. That is the fourth pick that London has been able to confirm here over these 5 rounds to start off engagements. And something we were seeing at least before for Pats to Sleep is when these engagements were taken by London and won out, there was a quick refrag almost always. And I think aside from last round, where it was the trade even by Josh Glitch, there hasn't been these refrags from them.
No, you're very right about that. It's, I mean, I think, I hate to say it, but again, we're seeing a very, very slow push from Path to Sleep right now. We do, perhaps it's picking up a little bit as we see some vertical destruction coming through, and oh, a missed opportunity there for Zofia, just barely letting Grills escape with about 30 HP now, and he's safe inside of sight at this moment in time, but definitely lucky to get away with that.
Yeah, just able to get away. These grills, like you said, C4 no longer in hand, but again, a slow attack. The wall's not even going to be pressured here until 30 seconds, as Harris is there. Actually, they're just going to blow past it. They're not even going to push it, as there is a man prone in front of him. That's that's Karma rather, as Josh and Pat are able to confirm one each. Dowie with another from above as he picks up Jerry. And so it's just Falcon and Blackout, 1 C4 between the two. But the Roni and the TCSG, both very powerful weapons. Falcon able to confirm one, but Dowie confirms on the Falcon. The Kaid able to take down the diffuser here, as he's going to throw a wayward C4, trying to fetch whatever he can. But Dowie trying to find the Kaid, and he does! Able to confirm at least Pat's Asleep first round here off of another very fast bit of action that they had to take. And these rounds just keep going very long. And it's not looking, it's just looking rough, really. There's no way around it. They're not getting in too quickly into the map.
But hey, something exciting happened, all right?
Yeah.
Path to Sleep actually clutched out around there, and I gotta say, like, that might help them in terms of just the way they're thinking about this game. When you get a very close round like that, even if it probably should have gone the way of Pat's Asleep much more convincingly. A couple of peaks there just not going as they should have, especially as we saw the peak into prep against the prone Vigil. He was
Attackers need to locate
actually
and
quite
defuse
unfortunate
bomb.
not to get the 2-piece there, as it looked like the call that he was prone and holding that angle was quite delayed, and I think it was either it must have been Josh Glitch pushing in because he's the only one with the kill out of the two that I was considering. He managed to claim that visual, but after chunking quite a bit of damage as he peaked. So had that not gone his way, it might have been a completely different round. But yeah, definitely that flurry of kills in the middle of that round, especially working those vertical angles, clearing out the
10
site.
seconds to insertion.
It set Pats Asleep up
left
for
before
their first
insertion.
round win, which is important, and a nice
Attackers
little
are
clutch
moving
as
out to
well,
locate a
which
bomb and
always
defuse it.
helps you feel a bit better about yourself as a team, I think.
Yeah, it definitely does feel a lot better. So able to stop the chain there from London as Pets Asleep. It always feels good to at least pick up one attack round as a run out from
Wow.
Jerry. Actually, I think out of library. That library doorway, he's able to jump out, and taking forever to get back in the building, he's still able to come in unrefragged. So Pat goes down for nothing as Jerry is able to start off this kitchen service defense with another early pick. And it's just, there's this constant aggression that I was talking about on Coastline that was really necessary from London, as
Jerry's popping
they're
off
just able
here.
to make it happen. Yeah, Jerry with a second, in fact, with the C4. I'm not sure where.
He's just going completely unchecked. He's done a lap of the map almost at this point. That run out, as we just saw as well, thanks to the observer there for highlighting, it's just a little run out from the pillars position to get that early pick. And then C4, not quite sure where that landed, but taking out Pat on the Ash, and now suddenly you're just left with the Maverick, the IQ, and the Nomad. That doesn't leave you with many options in terms of soft breaching. Dowie's bringing the breach charges, but Harris is going to have to kind of Maverick brick somewhere. It looks like he's working the hatch right now to try and get that open. This might be coupled with opening up potentially some of the freezer wall to get in, but Dowie's going to be taking a big chunk of damage there in an engagement, and Jerry's going to be cleaning him up. Blackout with another. Jerry sitting on a 3k for the round, and now it's just down to Yusus in a 1 versus 5 clutch or kick scenario. And he's got very little hope here. 48 seconds left. The defenders do have time on their side, really, as well, with so many finds. You'd have to find one every quick math 8 seconds to get this right. And he's just spraying through the floor here, praying to God that something will happen, but doesn't even react quickly enough to the head of Karma popping around the corner there. And that's a flawless round for London Esports. Any vestige of hope that Pat's had after that nice round win has been dashed completely now with that flawless win for London Esports. And this is completely counter to what we saw in the first map. First map, we got Coastline, Pat's Asleep, managing to take the first half 5-1 on their attack. And now, London Esports, 5-1 on defense.
Yeah, there's just no way around it. It's it's just a far cry from how Pat's Asleep was playing on Coast. They're very reserved here. They're playing cautiously as they're not taking as many fast engagements, and they're just
Attackers need to
it's
locate
showing in the
and
rounds.
defuse
There was a
bombs
few
if they
rounds
can.
before on Coastline that ended at about a minute and a half or a minute left in the round, whereas these rounds are oftentimes, aside from the ones where London is just super aggressive and making every pick possible, these rounds are ending sometimes at the timer, sometimes, with 10, 15 seconds left on the timer. They're just generally very much longer rounds that Pat's Asleep are taking here. And that's even just showing up in the kill feed. I mean, Harris is now the one on the 0. There's 3 on 2 frags, and Dowie is the only one with anything higher than that on 5. Meanwhile, on London, it's 3 guys on 6 or higher. And it's just it's very
Oh, there's a
yeah.
we've got a
Oh
7
yeah,
on there as
I'd
well.
rather
It's only Grills that doesn't have 6 or higher. That's pretty impressive. Ooh, nice little bit of acrobatics there from the yokai drone to get a bit of knowledge on that rooftop, but no one's up there just yet. From I keep wanting to say demise. It's Pat to sleep. They've all got in their names, you know. Keep looking there, but yeah, this is definitely a different game, shall we say? For at the very least, for these two teams, it seems like London Esports were pegged by some as being one of the teams that could potentially give Pats Asleep a run for their money in this league, and they're doing just that in this particular map. And I think it goes to show how big a deal map selection and map choice is when you're trying to assess how these two teams, or how any two teams will compare against each other, because it's clear to see that when it comes down to slowing an attack, that London Esports are just very well versed at it, and they are... Ooh, nice little catch there from Karma, getting that yokai drone as it leaps out. But yeah, just to finish my point, London Esports are very well versed at this kind of slowing the attack play, and Pats Asleep just not very good at dealing with it, it would seem. At least they weren't this match.
Yeah, London is now actually going to get the opening pick there. Jerry able to pick up on the Uzdeuce, just as I was about to say that it's going a bit slowly, but there's no wall deniers here coming out for Pats Asleep, as we saw for London. There was plenty of Kai play there from that team, as now it's Blackout just freely able to open whatever walls he wants now, with nothing to deny him but the defenders and their weapons. And yeah, there's no C4s. Pat has chosen a deployable shield, and the other one on Uzus is down. So Blackout now able to freely get this wall open, and he's got to start his plant to come down. Grills is going to get picked up by Dowie as Falcon picks up Harris. The planter is downed as well before the plant goes off. Josh Glitch takes out Blackout there, but Karma able to pick up one as well. So now it's just Pat against Josh. Josh able to pick up one, but Jerry right onto Pat, or Jerry right back onto Josh, actually, as it was Falcon who went down, my bad. And it's all up to Pat here, 1 versus 2 against Karma, and Jerry trying to stave off the tie point for another round at the least. Plant is down, and he's got Jerry on half and Karma on full, but he still has that MPX, which is really only a headshot machine. Hit a Nomad, they know exactly where he is. 20 seconds remain now on the timer, as it's looking pretty doomed for the Valkyrie, not able to land his shots. And yeah, he can't make this happen now. He's got 3 seconds to traverse and start the defuse. And with a man on it, this is a lockout now for London as they confirm another round here for themselves. With Jerry, or rather Pat, not going down at least, able to save his KD a bit. But still, wow, what a round there.
That's disappointing from Pat, I've got to be honest. You know, in that situation, when you're basically 1v2, it's definitely winnable. If you're not trying to push and get those kills, and especially in this situation, you're condemning your team to pick up at least or at most 1 point from the match. Now, they'd have to get 5 rounds successively here to see anything from this map. And it's looking much more likely that London Esports are going to see this over the line, and we're going to see an overall draw for the best of 2. It's also interesting. This is like 2 of the most one-sided matches I've ever seen, and it's going in opposite directions.
Yeah, it's definitely
Attackers need to
not
locate
at
and
all
defuse
really
bombs.
what I was expecting here. Usually not to put any teams down, but it does take a good bit of mental to come back from a 7-1 loss in any best of situation, aside obviously from a best of one.
Bomb located by attackers.
In any best of situation, you to sit there and take a 7-1 loss and be able to come back absolutely swinging like nothing happened, as London has shown here, that takes a lot of mental stability
10
and
seconds to go.
stamina, and it's it's insane really to see,
5 seconds to
a
insertion.
7-1 go the way of Pat's Asleep, and now possibly
Attackers' objective
another
is to defuse the
7-1.
bomb.
We could see London take this one 7-1 too. So it's very one-sided both ways on their respective maps, like you said, and it's very interesting to see because like it's been said a lot too. Pats Asleep or Demise as they were before, they were touted as some of one of the best rather in all of Atlas. So they were expected to win a lot out, and not to say that they're going to win out completely undefeated. Not at all. They were just not expected, I think, to get blown out 6-1 so far on a map.
I'm interested by the choice of secondary utility on Pat's Asleep right now. Obviously, Pat himself bringing that deployable shield is an interesting choice for a Valkyrie. Usually, you'd expect him to be playing into the fact that you're bringing that intel. You can play from beneath the night plants with a C4, but this deployable shield obviously factors into their setup quite greatly, and it won't do to have one of those Vulcans instead. Pat himself looking like he's going for a run out, and he is going to get that as Grills goes down on the rappel. Finally, the Valkyrie striking from beneath.
Defender
And
exposed.
London Esports just taking far too much time on this rappel and not having sufficient cover. Josh Glitch also enabling that play there by holding out in piano the way he did. And unfortunate for Yusuf there, as it looks like he's going to be felled by a detonated Vulcan shield. So the Kaid going out, but certainly still advantage for defenders in this situation, as we have a 4 versus 4 Nomad and the Kaid gone, both the what is it, Wind Bastion ops, I guess. Can't remember the name of the CTU, but we've got 53 seconds left, and a Volt coming through from Karma, playing very aggressive, expecting to get the pick onto the Freezer player, and he gets just that second kill on the round. And now he has control of Dark Cocktail, and the plant is going down. Covers and gets the triple kill on the round, and a quad kill there for Karma, as London Esports seal out the win on Cafe in pretty spectacular fashion.
Wow, that was very fast. Clearly, it was good drone work there from London, as that was Karma able to vault downstairs, or rather down through the skylight, and pick up 3 for himself without really worrying about much on the offsides of stuff. Harris sadly finishes out on the 0-8, which is really rough, but it was good showing from both teams across both maps. So
Yeah.
we're gonna now see. Yeah, that's it. Actually, split 1-1, 7-1, 1-7, whichever way you want to look at it. Really, Pat's
Yeah,
Asleep in London splitting it.
it's actually quite interesting. Look at my notes, and it was a perfectly symmetrical set of matches. It was 5-1 in the first half, and then um a pair of rounds in the second going the way of the leaders. And even in that first half, it went to 4-0, then 4-1, then 5-1. So these two teams, basically the yin to the yang. Like, I don't know which one's yin and which one's yang, but playing completely opposite to each other. And London Esports finding themselves victors on the much more utility heavy cafe, whereas Pat to Sleep have shown that they can definitely frag out on coastline, but take them to cafe, and maybe that's a way of tripping them up.